everyone. It's officially noon. My name is Claire Brelio. I'm the Communications and Business Disruption Resource Director for the Economic Development Collaborative, as probably most of you know who are joining us today. We have a smaller group this afternoon, and I'm just going to wait a minute or two as you all come in. I will not be presenting today. I am joined by Juliana Ramirez, one of our expert financial advisors with the Small Business Development Center. And if you're not familiar with the Small Business Development Center, the Economic Development Collaborative hosts the Small Business Development Center for Santa Barbara and Ventura County. We serve approximately 2,500 businesses a year in both counties and have reached over 14,000 since COVID started, with resources on local, with information on local, state, and federal resources available. And Juliana will be presenting today some of those resources. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you haven't already guessed, you are muted. Your video is not available. This is being recorded, and this is in webinar format. So I'm going to turn it over to Juliana in just a moment, but I want to clarify a couple things. Please use the chat feature located at the bottom of your screen if you have any questions or technical questions. And please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen if you have questions related to the presentation, which I'm sure a lot of you have. You have come with questions. So please use the Q&A feature. We like to track what we answer and what is being asked in order to provide you the best resources and the best information available. You will be given the opportunity at the end of this webinar to connect with one of our SBDC advisors, including Juliana, in her busy schedule if she has availability. We provide resources in English and Spanish. And so please pass this word along and check out our website. It's edcollaborative.com for current and future webinars and past webinars. We have a list of previous webinars recorded on our website as well under previous events. Anything else? I don't think I'm missing anything else. We're joined by Visionality on the back end to help answer and answer any technical questions that come up and help us work through this webinar. We're very happy, as always, to have their support. So with that being said, I just want to mention, and this has come up in many, many webinars. Gosh, I don't know how many, Juliana, you have done and I've done in the past year, but just as a reminder, we are walking through this with you. You know, when COVID hit, none of us knew what resources would become available during this moment of disruption. We understand the level of trauma that some of you have gone through, the emotional capacity that it requires to just get up every day, do the things you need to do as business owners, and hopefully build a better life and business for yourself. So we are in this with you. We are not going anywhere, and we'll continue to provide you the best service possible. And if you have questions or comments about that, feel free to also include that in the chat feature below, so we know how to serve you better. With that being said, we have 21 people in the room. I'm going to pass it off to Juliana. Thank you so much, and I will see you all later.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for the introduction. And again, everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us today. We will be talking about the update on California Relief Grant Program. A lot of you, if you've been here before and you've applied for the program, you've probably already received this information and this notice. And also an update on the Paycheck Protection Program. As you know, there's been a few changes, and we want to talk about those, as well as we're gonna do, we're gonna have a window for open Q&A for sure. So again, please post your questions on the Q&A, and we'll be answering them at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions related to anything and everything available out there, please feel free to post those questions. We will do the best to answer those. I've personally been helping a lot of you with questions on all of these resources from understanding what documentation you need to have available, how to utilize that information to complete the applications for the programs, as well as, ensuring that you're eligible for any of these programs. So this is what I do day in and day out. So I feel, comfortable and familiar with the processes. I've also been helping and assisting clients with different lenders, particularly for the Paycheck Protection Program. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, as well as I've also assisted with uploading documents. So if you need technical assistance, please, don't hesitate to reach out to one of us at EDC. This week, the California Office of the Small Business Advocate announced that new funding rounds for the California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant will be opening soon. As a matter of fact, the third round is opening today, or open today. Now, the program will continue to be managed by Landistry, and all updated information can be reviewed at californiareliefgrant.com. Really, the information that I'm sharing with you here today is also on Landistry's website, or on under the californiareliefgrant.com. Our call center and advisors are also available to work with our clients with clients to answer general questions, help with document uploads, new applications, and non-technical related assistance or questions. We also want to remind you that attending this webinar does not, mean that does not make you a client of EDC. However, you can contact us at the number here. We have an English hotline and a Spanish hotline for you to become one of our clients, and that way we can assist you. Let's talk about round three. Round three, it's actually a closed round, and it's only available to eligible applicants who were waitlisted in rounds 1 and 2. Only the existing applicants will be selected. That means that if you were waitlisted, you do not need to reapply. It is a closed round, which means that you would have already been notified if you were on the wait list. If you're on the wait list, there's nothing else to do. You don't need to do anything other than wait for an email from Landistry to advise you or let you know what the next steps are. And the next steps, if you applied and were told that you were waitlisted and have already uploaded your documents, then the next step would be that you're going to go through the verification process. Now, we also want to make sure that you understand that, there is an eligibility or priority criteria. This is how the first, on the first and second round, the selections that were made, there was because they met the priority criteria. If you were waitlisted, does not mean that you don't meet the eligibility criteria. It just means that it's probably not in the priority criteria. So Landistry is working through all of those applicants that were eligible, and that were, that had priority, and those that did not have priority but were eligible. So making sure that you understand that if you've been told you're waitlisted, then it's just really a matter of waiting for your turn, or for, the time that your application gets selected. If you've already uploaded your documents and you have, again, been told that you are waitlisted, then you just need to wait. Again, this round starts today, March 5th. Through Thursday, March 11. The eligible, grant awards are still the $5,000 to $25,000. $5,000 is for those businesses that made, under $100,000 or up to $100,000. Also, the $15,000 grants are for those businesses that made between $100,000 and up to $1 million. And the third round is those that were made up to $2.5 million. And again, this round is a closed round, so there's no applications that are going to be accepted. On the fourth round, this round is going to be a special program for nonprofit arts and cultural institutions only. This it starts on Tuesday, March 16th through Tuesday, March 23rd. This is, again, only for nonprofit arts and cultural institutions with any revenue size that meet the eligibility criteria. The eligible nonprofit cultural institutions must complete a new application, even if they already applied in rounds 1 and 2. Grants will only be available to nonprofits that did not receive fundings in rounds 1, 2, or 3. Grants will be prioritized based on the documented percentage revenue declines based on a reporting period comparing quarter two, quarter three of 2020 versus quarter two and quarter three of 2019. Now, once again, we want to make sure that you understand that if you've applied in round 1 and 2 and were not selected, then and meet and you're a nonprofit arts and cultural institution, that then you can apply again under round 4. However, if you're not a nonprofit, arts and cultural institution, then you got to wait for round 5. If you were already, granted, then you cannot apply under round 4. Once again, nonprofit arts and cultural institutions. Uh, I know this is all a bit confusing or could become a bit confusing, but um, this is where you can contact us so we can walk you through the process. We can really, make sure that you are understanding what the eligibility is and what qualifies. Now, as a nonprofit, those eligible nonprofit cultural institutions will be required to complete a new application again, even if they already applied for the COVID-19 relief grant program, provided the grants will not be awarded to any eligible nonprofit cultural institution if such entity has otherwise been awarded a grant. The eligible businesses must have, or the eligible nonprofits must have a physical address and operate in California. And once again, the grants to eligible nonprofit will be prioritized on documented percentage revenue declines based on our reporting, comparing quarter 2 and quarter 3 of 2020 versus quarter 2 and quarter 3 of 2019. There's no limit on the amount that the nonprofit has made. The nonprofits must satisfy the following criteria to be eligible to receive a grant. They must meet the definition of a qualified small business or the nonprofit arts and cultural program, the definition of eligible nonprofit cultural institution. They must have an active business or nonprofit operating. They must have had an active business or profit operating since at least June 1st, 2019. They must currently be operating or have a clear plan to reopen once the state of California permits reopening of the business. Business must be impacted by COVID-19 and the health and safety restrictions such as business interruptions or business closures incurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Business must be able to provide organizing documents, including 2018 or 2019 tax returns or Form 990s, copy of official filing with the California Secretary of State, if applicable, or local municipality for the business, such as one of the following, like articles of incorporation, certificate of organization, fictitious name of registration, or government issued business license. The applicant must also be able to provide acceptable form of government issued ID. Applicants with multiple business entities like franchises, locations, etc., are not eligible for multiple grants and are only allowed to apply once using their eligible small business with the highest revenue. So if you have multiple businesses or multiple organizations, then you just got to select the one that has the highest revenue. The nonprofit arts and cultural program would only support California eligible nonprofit cultural institutions, and the eligible nonprofit means that they're a registered 501c3 nonprofit entity that satisfies the criteria for a qualified small business, but with no limitation on annual gross revenue. And that is one of the following North America industry classification systems, the NAICS code. For art dealers, for theater companies and dinner theaters, for dance companies, for musical groups and artists, other performing arts companies, promoters of performing arts, sports, and similar events with facilities, promoters of performing arts, sports, and similar events without facilities, agents and managers for artists, athletes, entertainers, and other public figures, independent artists, writers, and performers, museums, zoos, zoos and botanical gardens, nature parks, and other similar institutions. Again, this is for nonprofits and this is for round 4. And the revenue determined based on IRS tax form definition of gross sales less any returns and allowances as reported on line 12 on form 990. This is on your Schedule E. If Schedule E, I'm sorry, is not eligible. Applicants will be required to certified eligibility, including that the grant will be used for the specific applicant with the highest revenue. Round 5 will be a round for both new applicants and waitlisted applicants. That will start on Thursday, March 25th through Wednesday, March 31st. The new eligible the eligible applicants will be new eligible applicants, and waitlisted applicants from round 1, 2, and 3 will be automatically moved into round 5. So again, if you had already applied and have been told that you're waitlisted, you do not need to apply again. If you've never applied, then round 5 is the time where you get the opportunity to apply for this grant. So if you missed round 1 or 2, then you can, then apply on round 5. Those applicants that were not selected to receive a grant in rounds 1, 2, and 3 do not need to reapply. We cannot express that enough. It does slow down the process when you have multiple applications or when you've applied in the different rounds. So please make sure that you only apply once and all the documentation has been uploaded. The new applicants will need to apply at the CaliforniaReliefGrant.com website. Also round 6, it's yet not announced. We don't know when the date that it's going to be, but it'll be announced as soon as it's available. And that would be a round that will be for eligible applicants who are currently waitlisted. So if you didn't make it into 1, 2, 3, or 5, then you then get to make it into round 6, but you do not need to reapply. Again, if you are notified that you're waitlisted, then and all your documentation is uploaded, please just wait your turn or wait for when you're selected. Applicants, again, not selected will have the ability to qualify in this last round. Now, if for new applicants, they also will need to apply through the California Relief Grant. Now, want to make sure that you understand how applicants will be determined or are being determined. Number 1 is based on geographic distribution, based on COVID-19 health and safety restrictions. California has a blueprint for a safer economy and county status, and they know which of those geographic areas are eligible. So that's the very first, that's one of the criteria. The other criteria or the other priority is industry sectors most impacted by the pandemic. They have also been identified. These are the most hard hit businesses or most impacted. And so if your business, falls under one of these categories, there's a priority for these type of businesses. Also, nonprofits with the mission services most impacted by the pandemic. That are including but not limited to emergency food provisions, emergency housing stability, childcare and workforce development, and disadvantaged communities tracked by socioeconomic indicators. So if you are not in one of these, priority criteria, this is probably why you're waitlisted, and we just need to, to wait until all the applicants get verified to be able to, wait your turn. Just kind of like a recap of the opportunities to be selected. And the way that you can look at it is, if I've already applied, where could it be my chance? If you've already applied, then that makes you an existing applicant, and you then have an opportunity to either be selected on round 3, round 5, or round 6. And if you're a new applicant, then you got to wait to apply on round 5 and round 6. For the arts and cultural nonprofits, they only get a chance if they have been waitlisted from round 1 and 2. So in round 3, if they get selected in round 3, then they don't need to apply on round 4. However, if they are not selected, then they can apply on round 4, round 5, or round 6. If they applied on round 4, then they gotta and they are not selected and are told that they're waitlisted, then they'll have the opportunity to do it on round 5 and round 6. um, for for the existing applicants. Now, for new applicants, then they can apply on round 4, round 5, or round 6. And then for all nonprofits that are not arts and cultural nonprofits, they have a similar, that are existing applicants, they have a similar, criteria, just like small businesses, which is if you're being told that you're waitlisted, then you have a chance on round 3, round 5, and round 6. So again, if you've already applied, there's no need for you to reapply during any of these rounds, except for those arts and cultural nonprofits. So we hope that this makes sense and that this is helpful to know. And again, if you don't understand, feel free to reach out to one of our advisors, and we'll be happy to assist you. What to do before you apply? Please know that there is an application guide on the californiareliefgrant.org program. So please make sure that you first review the program application guides. We know it's long, we know it's wordy, but if you really look at it, it has all the information that you need to know on how to apply, what the eligibility is, what doesn't make you eligible, and all of this information. So this is also going to help you to improve the experience of your application. And it also includes screenshots of the application and portal to help you familiarize yourself with the process. So, first, if you're thinking of applying, please make sure that you please review the program and application guides. The second thing that we recommend is that you watch videos on the application process. That will, again, answer a lot of your questions, particularly when it comes to technical assistance, how to successfully upload documents or how to successfully complete the application. And it's also available in multiple languages. So, if you feel more comfortable with in a different language, please, you can also watch videos in your language. The other important factor here is that you need to make sure that you prepare your required documents. If you review the program overview, then you'll know what documents to provide and have handy. And of course, number 4 is to find and apply through a partner. Now, SBDC is a partner with the California Small Business Relief Grant. And when you go to the website, you have the option to select a partner, and SBDC is one of them. So, again, you can, the best recommendation is to select only one partner and always, go back to that, through that application through there. When you apply, they send you a username and password, and they also send you the link of the original partner that, including the original partner that you applied through. And so that's really the best recommended way to go back into your application to upload your documents. Once again, key information such as, your documentation, you are going to need to, sign, have an application certification. So have that, signed, which is to certify your business. Your business financial information, you're going to need your most recent tax return file, your 2019 or 2018. And a copy of an official filing with the California Secretary of State if you're incorporated, or a business license or your fictitious business name, and a government issued photo ID such as your driver's license or passport. One complete application will qualify you to be considered for both rounds, or really for the rounds like I already mentioned. And owners of multiple businesses like franchise locations, et cetera, will be considered only for one grant. So if you have multiple businesses, you're the principal owner of all of those, then just remember that you will only be, you're recommended to apply for the one with the highest revenue. When to contact EDC when you have general questions about the grant, such as program overview, eligibility, and application process. When you have questions about the application and process, including how to apply, how to complete the application, and what information is needed. When you need help completing the application and or uploading documents. I've, personally have been assisting clients that don't have the ability to scan and save it as a PDF. I've been, assisting with that. So if you need help with that, that's when you want to call us. If you need help with the application in another language, I'm bilingual, but we also have other advisors who are bilingual. Um, you would like resources to help guide you through the application process, and you have questions about what documentation is required for the grant. I know this all sounds repetitive, but we know that it can be very confusing, and this is what we're here for, to help. When to contact Landistry when you have submitted an application and need help fixing an error in the information you provided, or when you cannot locate your username and password for the portal, or you have tried resetting your password but still cannot log in, or if you are receiving an error message when submitting an application and or uploading documents. So if you have not heard, if you know you applied and have not heard, you didn't receive the email, then the recommendation is for you to contact Landistry, because most likely you probably applied multiple times and your application is, it's not sorted out through because there's multiple attempts or multiple applications. So if you have not heard at all, even though you applied, in the first round and were told that you just need to wait, then call them and they'll be able to assist you. Their call center is open from 7 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. at night. Now, I want to go into the SBA COVID-19 economic disaster loans. I'm really not going to focus on all of these today. I'm really just going to give you a quick update on the Paycheck Protection Program, which in my opinion, is pretty straightforward. However, I know that there could be, questions on that, but just know that these programs are still available. Again, the Paycheck Protection Program, which ends at the end of March 31st, the debt relief on SBA 7A loans or 504 and microloans, the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the targeted EIDL advance. We have already seen that the SBA has already started contacting those businesses that had a grant, that received an advance on their EIDL loan and did not receive the full 10,000. You would have received, if you are within the area most impacted, then you will be contacted directly by the SBA to let you know that you're eligible to apply for the difference of that EIDL targeted advance. There's no place for you to go in and apply for that. You can still apply for an EIDL loan if you haven't done so already. And the shutter venue operators grants, that's, we're getting closer to open that portal. So as far as the Paycheck Protection Program, the changes, in order to reach the smallest businesses, SBA is offering a Paycheck Protection Program loans to businesses with fewer than 20 employees and sole proprietors only from Wednesday, February 24th through Tuesday, March 9th. Now, we know that, when this was announced last week, the new application for sole proprietors had not been released. Therefore, the recommendation was for you to hold off until that application was out so that we could see what the changes were. We now know that the new application allows sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals to receive more financial support by revising the PPP's funding formula for these categories of applicants. I will talk to you about that change in a second. But it also announced, again, other changes, such as eliminating an exclusionary restriction on PPP access for small business owners with prior non-fraud felony convictions, consistent with a bipartisan congressional proposal. It also eliminates the PPP access restrictions on small business owners who have struggled to make student loan payments by eliminating student loan debt delinquency as a disqualifier to participating in the PPP. and ensure access for non-citizen small business owners who are lawful U.S. residents by clarifying that they may use individual tax identification numbers, or better known as ITINs, to apply for the PPP. Really, the biggest change, which I think is the most significant as far as the sole proprietor who had no legal issues, or was able to has a Schedule C on their tax return, is that now you can use the gross revenue for those who typically will use, again, a Schedule C instead of your net profit. That really has now, made a big impact. It's going to really help those small business owners who don't have employees, or who have employees, but they didn't have a big enough or a significant or any net income on their profit. So the application does now state that you can apply for, including your gross income from 2019. So if you have employees, you would then deduct, your employees pay from the, from the gross income to then be able to apply based on your gross income. So ensuring that you understand that. And for that, what I want to do is I want to go switch really quick to show you on where on the Schedule C, what number on the Schedule C it is that you will be able to apply. So it was based off of line 31, which is your net profit. That line 31 would include, will be your gross income, which is line 7, minus all the expenses on your business, and then the loan would be based on that line 31. Now they've changed that to be line 7. So if you are a sole proprietor, independent contractor, you can now go to your Schedule C line 7 and base your application on that. Now, of course, there's limitations. For instance, if gross income, if you don't have any employees, and if your gross income is more than 100,000, now you will be required to lower that to 100,000, so you can base your loan on that, on 100,000, even if you made above that. So that's if you don't have employees. Now, if you have employees, then you are required to deduct the employees' pay, in this case your salaries, your employee salaries, and the benefits that you pay for those employees, to then be able to calculate your loan. And that's, in a nutshell, one of the most significant changes. We are here. I want to now open it up for open Q&A, for opening it up to questions. Let's see. Nico, would you be helping me with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. I'm going to stop sharing, but if I need to share again, I will.
Great. Okay, so this first question asks, when I applied for the relief grant, I didn't know that businesses under 100,000 were only eligible for the $5,000 grant. I put 25K in the desired grant amount. Will that disqualify me from any consideration?
No, it would not disqualify you. That's where, that's one of the reasons they required your documentation, so that they can verify that what you applied for is what you really qualify for. So if you just put a different amount there, that's okay. You don't need to change it. You will just be notified if that you qualify for a lesser amount. And this is a perfect example of a question that you can contact Landistry if you're worried, or if you don't think the information there was correct. But definitely you will not be disqualified because of that.
Great, thank you. So next question says, we are waitlisted for California relief and are hoping we'll receive grants for round 3, but the site still says pending uploading documents. It also says it may continue to give this message even if all the documents are in, and this is being paraphrased. Should we be concerned?
you should not be concerned. As a matter of fact, the good thing about the next few rounds, obviously, we're learning about the issues that applicants have been having. So Landistry has listened, and it's going to be doing some changes to the site. They're not up yet as of right now, but you should not be concerned. If you know that you've already uploaded all your documents and everything is up there, then you should not be concerned. Everything, they just didn't have the updated information. Their portal had not been updated to reflect those changes, but soon it will. So you'll, in the next few days, probably you'll see a change in the way that you look at the information, but you should not be concerned.
Great, thank you. This next question, I'm very concerned that I did not upload my taxes properly and caught it and put in all 16 pages. I need to know if I'm in a different pool and will be overlooked. Everyone that I helped to get this grant received it, but not me. So how do you call this last part? Please answer, how do you qualify someone's business?
Okay, so as far as uploading the documentation, if I would, the first thing I would say is, have you received confirmation that your application was received and were given a username and password? Most likely, yes, because you have uploaded the documents. If you've uploaded the documents, this is where, if you are selected, you are going to be contacted for verification. So if there was any issues with your documents, then they're going to let you know that there's an issue and that they need for you to do A, B, or C, whatever that issue is. So the verification process will help in ensuring that they have everything they need from you. Now, the second question was, how do you verify a business? Did I get that right?
Yeah, everyone that I helped to get this grant received it, but not me. So please answer, how do you qualify someone's business?
So how do you qualify? Just as long as you meet the eligibility criteria, that is really how how you qualify a business. Now, again, keep in mind that there's priority. So you may be, depending on what sector of those priority criteria you fall under, or if you do or if you don't, that's what's going to determine if you are selected or not. The legislation is very, very specific to help the most, those most in most need, based on, like I already shared, based on location, based on, the most impact, the industries. I mean, it is really kind of like, well, they call it a scorecard. So there is a scorecard that, your business, needs to, to complete. And based on that scorecard is how you, get selected. So if you've, I would be concerned if you have not heard, then what I would do is, if you have not heard anything, then contact Landistry to ensure that your application was received, or they have, something on you. I believe I shared in the previous webinar that, I was getting these automatic emails saying that, my application was not complete, And when I called, they said, oh, there were 2 applications, even though I didn't remember, filling out or completing 2 applications. So they had to, remove that second application that was not incomplete, that was incomplete. So if you have those kinds of concerns where you're not either hearing from them, even though you've already applied on their round 1 or round 2, then, reach out to them to make sure that, they identified your file and there's only one file for you, or one application for you.
Great, thank you. And so this next question, I think it's just asking for some clarification on the second half of your presentation. It says, please share the next grant that you had just mentioned probably about 5 minutes ago. Not the California Relief Grant, but the other one, the name and when the portal will be open. I think there was a slide with various different abbreviations. I think this person's just looking for some clarification.
Yeah, so the SBO grant, it's the Shutter Venue Operators Grant. That is, if you go to the SBA website, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to I want to share where you can look at that information also for the eligibility criteria, because I think it's very important. When you go to the sba.gov, you can click on learn more. There's really, a yellow bar here at the top, and they also give you where are the coronavirus relief options. When you click on coronavirus relief options, you'll see a list of everything that's available. And at that, the grant that I mentioned was this shuttered venue operators grant. And that is going to give you more of the program details, what supplemental documents, who can apply, the amount of the SBO grant, how to apply, the allowable use of funds, video tutorials, and more information. So it really has all the information that you need here. You would want to contact us. They even have frequently asked questions. If if any of this information is still not clear, this is where you may contact us to, assist you in um, interpreting the information that you are reading here. But it is this one right here. I mentioned this one, and I also mentioned the um, the the economic injury disaster loan, the targeted grant. This is the targeted EIDL advance, which again, this is those advance funds that were based on $10,000 at the beginning of the pandemic. You were given $1,000 for every employee. So now, for those businesses that are within the areas, that the located in a low income community, or that can demonstrate more than 30% reduction in revenue, they have to have those qualifications. This is where you will be contacted directly by the SBA. So those are those two that I mentioned earlier.
Great. And just to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded, and we'll send out the recording. So if you happen to miss a step, you can go back and view this, and Juliana will have walked you step by step through where to find all this information. Thank you for doing that. So this next question asks, if we have a round 1 PPP and have not applied for forgiveness, should we do so before applying for the current round?
No, you do not need to. You do not need to wait. As a matter of fact, a lot of the lenders have paused processing forgiveness applications to allow time those applicants for round 2 to apply for that second draw. So don't wait. As a matter of fact, I would do that first, and then you will get the information from your lender as to when you can apply. So you don't have to. You can apply for a second draw without getting forgiveness on the first one. The only indication or the only provision is that you must have exhausted all the funds from the first draw.
Great, thank you. What are the terms of the PPP loan if not forgiven?
So if your loan is not forgiven, if whatever the balance, if it's not forgiven in its entirety or even a portion of it, then you are going to, depending on when you receive that first grant, before June 5th, it was a 2-year term loan with 1% interest. And if it was after June 5th, then it was a 5-year loan with still a 1% interest. Some banks did automatically, or did send a document making those 2-year loans into a 5-year loan, but every lender is different. So the best person, or the best location to find that information would be your bank, your lender, to find out if they can switch it from a 2-year to a 5-year. So depending on when you receive that that loan, and if your lender didn't automatically send you a document stating that you can change it into a 5-year loan, then that's really what determines. So it's either a 2-year or a 5-year with 1% interest.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. Will I be contacted if I was rejected the first time, I applied as a sole proprietor, or should I reapply again?
Now, can Sandra clarify if it's on the PPP or the California grant? I want to make sure that I answer that correctly. So if you don't mind just giving us clarification on what did you get rejected for? Was it the PPP, or there's no rejection on the California grant? It just simply either not selected or not eligible.
It looks like Sandra just said PPP.
Okay, for the PPP. So if you were rejected, we obviously need to understand what was the reason for you being rejected. If it was because you didn't have, let's say, enough net income, and now you do, obviously, because now you're going to base it on the gross, then you should be able to apply again. If there was another reason, we would need to know what the reason. One of the things that I've experienced with some clients is that there is sometimes confusion between their legal business name versus the the business name. And so when you're a sole proprietor and you're not incorporated, the legal business name is yourself or your name. And so sometimes applicants put in the business name and the EIN number in the application, which that's technically not the legal business name, which I know it's a bit confusing, but the best way that I can explain it is I'm going to share my screen again, because I think it's very important that you identify what could be an error that could then cause your application to not be, you know, to not be approved. And in this case, one of the things that I've seen when clients have had issues with that is when you look at your Schedule C, the first line says name of proprietor, which means the name of the tax filer, which would in essence be your first name, first and last name, your social security number, that is your legal business name and, you know, ID. Then there's the, you know, section A is principal, business, or profession. This is where you get to, you know, put what type of business you are. And then there is business name. So if you're having a DBA, your legal business name is still yourself. I've seen this sometimes confusing and sometimes being, you know, used incorrectly. And this is where I've seen that clients don't, you know, don't get, you know, they get denied because they're putting in their business name with their EIN number. But then sometimes really the verification process is your name with your social security number. So that could be the reason why you got declined. You know, check back in, maybe try with a different lender or go back to that original lender and, you know, try to find out why it was that you were denied. But that I've seen that as a common issue.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you again for sharing your screen and walking us all through that. It's super helpful. So this next question asks, can you review the quarterly 25% loss in revenue eligibility requirement for the PPP round 2?
Yes. So I think that the best way, let me stop sharing my screen, and I will share that in just a second. I know that sometimes can be, you know, confusing, and how you determine what that is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a QuickBooks file so that you guys can see that really how you can, you know, look at that 25% reduction. So I'm going to now back here, share my screen. So hopefully, if you have something like QuickBooks or a similar program where you can run a profit and loss, you're going to run a profit and loss. That profit and loss will, you can say last year, right? Your period would be for last year. You would divide it in quarters, and then QuickBooks gives you the ability to do previous year with a percentage change. When you do that, depending on how you file, but you know, let's assume that you file as in a cash basis. When you do that, then it gives you first quarter, January through March. The first column is the current year versus the previous year. In this case, we can see that this business, for instance, had a 18% reduction on the first quarter. Then we can see that on the second quarter, they had a 48% decrease. And then on the third quarter, they had a 44% decrease. And on the fourth quarter, they had a 56. So this is the type of information that the financial institution is going to require for you to verify that 25% reduction. So as long as it's 25 or more, this is where you can then. Now, for instance, this particular business unfortunately had a reduction of 42% overall. So here is where you can select just one quarter, or you can select multiple or the whole year. So you have that option of doing one quarter on its own or just the whole year. And that's how you can then verify this is the exact documentation. So what I've been doing, you know, is making sure that I'm going to just select one quarter. Sorry. So I just, if I identify the quarter that there's been the most reduction, which is not the 25. So let's say I'm going to select the fourth quarter in this case, because that's where I see the most uh, reduction. So I'm just going to then say that I'm going to do that from 10/1, 20 to 12/31, 20. And that is going to just give me that quarter by itself. And so that's how you can then identify that. I hope that was the question they had.
I hope so too, because that was a very helpful and very thorough step-by-step walking through.
Right.
So again, thank you so much. This
Mhm.
next question asks, I was concerned about the PPP loan and unemployment as well. I heard we must report owner compensation for 10 weeks. Do you know anything about reporting to EDD and if they will discontinue my claim or just not pay me for 10 weeks reported?
So it is my understanding, I'm not 100% familiar with the ins and outs of EDD. I mainly obviously assist the small business owners with, most on the accounting side. But
Mhm.
as far as unemployment, it is my understanding that when you apply for unemployment, you then need to certify. Um, there were some weeks that you didn't have to, it was automatically done. However, I know that, that they've required you to certify. When you certify that you've either made money or received income or not, that is when you should have an option to report. If you receive the PPP, report what you were paid from that PPP for that week or for that period. When you do that, and I know that there's a special section that says, other income, right? If it wasn't just regular earnings. And then they should be able to then modify the amount that you would receive for that week, or you would be eligible for that week based on the amount that you report that you receive from the PPP. It is important that you report it because you cannot double dip, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So it's important that you know that you do have to report it, and it should automatically modify, if they stop for that week or what you are eligible for that period.
Great, thank you. Next
Mhm.
question. I am a single sole accommodations proprietor with expenses that exceed 80% of income. How do I document my wages to qualify for PPP forgiveness?
So once again, very good question. I know that I already went over it, but
Mhm.
very important that, you understand. The first thing I would say is go to your Schedule C, right? Look for your, last filed tax return. Hopefully that was 2019. And when you look at that, now you're not going to be required to do it on line 31, right? Because based on what you're saying, if your expenses are about 80%, and then that number on line 31 may be either very low or zero or negative. If that's the case, then for this latest changes made it where you can base it off line 7. So when you go to line 7, look at that amount. If that amount is 100 or more, then you cap it at 100,000. So you need to calculate it based on 100,000, and you would take 100,000 divided by 12 multiplied by two and a half. So that would give you 20,833, and that's the cap for sole proprietors. So sole proprietors cannot qualify for more than 20,833 if they didn't have employees. If they had employees, then of course they get to take that cap, again, based on the gross income, deduct their employee expenses or the employee wages, and then the difference, if the difference is over 100, then they got to bring it down to 100. So they always got a cap at 100, cannot do more than 100.
Great, thank you so much. Next question asks, is it recommended that we use the same lender for the second draw of PPP?
It is, because they already have all your documentation and all your information from the first draw. So if you had a successful loan with your lender and they have their portal open, or if they're offering second draw, then it is recommended that you go through them. If for any reason you don't get, qualified, or they, um, they don't, they tell you no pretty much, then you can apply through another lender. But it's important to know that you have to first be declined from one lender to then go and apply for another. I had a particular situation where, one of our clients applied for for their second draw with the same lender, and they approved her, and we're waiting for the documents to be signed. And she took longer than, I believe it was longer than 20 days that the SBA had approved the loan. And since she didn't take it, the loan proposal or the loan offer expired, which means that now she has to wait for the SBA to kind of release that file in order for her to either reapply through the same lender or to reapply through another lender. So be careful when you are told either that you're denied, because if you're denied, then you can go and apply through another lender, understanding what the reason was for the declination. Make sure that it is not because you don't meet the qualifications. So obviously, if you don't, then you wouldn't be able to apply through another lender. But yes, best recommended, if your lender is accepting second draws, please apply through them. And if not, then yes, look for another lender.
Great, thank you. What is the application deadline for PPP for sole proprietors who have never applied?
It's March 31st. So the one thing I do want to clarify is that there was a special window of 2 weeks, which we set from March 24th to, from February 24th to March 10th. However, that was just a special window to give the ability for smaller businesses to apply, for especially those who had not applied. However, if you don't meet the cut between of that 2-week window, you still have until March 31st with the new provision. So it's not like it's a temporary provision. It's actually, a permanent provision for up to March 31st. And, if in the event that it gets extended, then obviously you can apply through, if it were to be extended.
Mm-hmm. Right. So going back a little bit, there was a previous question about issues with different business names for sole proprietors, I believe. So this question asks, why would the wrong business name disqualify you for a PPP loan? Wouldn't they cross-reference that?
So they don't disqualify you. I want to be clear. I did mention it could have been the reason that the bank declined. Does not mean that they disqualify you. That just means that they themselves could not verify it through their portal. So it does not disqualify you. It just simply could be a reason that they declined. That's why I said, if you clarify what was the reason for the declined result of your PPP, that's when you then have to go back and see, could it have been this? I also shared that is one of the most common reasons that I've seen, particularly with the bigger banks. I mean, I've had this particular bank who, has been declining these businesses mainly because, I mean, it could be simple as the person applying, there may be a husband and wife, and the main the primary contact could be the husband, but then the one that applied was the wife. And for whatever reason, the bank didn't, get that match. And that's what they said, that you're not qualified, or they declined, when the next bank that we went to had no problem with that information. So just be careful, but don't think that just because you were declined, understand what is the reason for declination. But again, clear that it does not disqualify you. It's just a way that it may work through the portal for that particular lender.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for adding that clarification. This question asks, are we able to add the owed amount on our prior PPP loan, which is solely an Eidl grant amount that incorrectly was not included when I asked for loan forgiveness when I apply for my second PPP loan?
Okay, can you read that question again? I'm trying
Sure.
to also read it along with you. So
Sure. Are we able to add the owed amount on our prior PPP loan, which is solely an Eidl grant amount, and then in parentheses it adds that incorrectly was not included when I asked for loan forgiveness when I apply for my second PPP loan?
So when you apply for a second PPP loan, you don't want to include any amounts other than your, average monthly payroll, or in this case, if you're a sole proprietor, just your, your loan calculation amount. You don't want to include anything else. The only amount that you would want to include is a loan that you received between January 31st and April 3rd. An Eidl loan, which is not the EIDL loan, or which is not the COVID EIDL advance or loan. So be careful. Don't include anything. If you had if you apply for if you received an EIDL advance and you didn't, then you didn't need to include that in your, PPP loan application. If you receive that, when you apply for the forgiveness, you apply for the forgiveness of the full amount, and the only reduction on that forgiveness is if you didn't use the funds, 60% for payroll and 40% for other expenses. If you didn't meet that qualification, then the reduction of that forgiveness would be, obviously based on that. But don't include anything else other than, the way that you use the money for.
Great, thank you so much. So down to our last few questions. I think these might be rapid fire, but we'll do our best. So the question asks, what date do you start your PPP? The day you are approved or the day it deposits, essentially?
So it is, it does say that the date that your funds are disbursed. However, one of the things that we have found is that when the SBA gives the approval to the lender, they give them a SBA loan number along with the date of the loan or the date of approval, which then turns to be sometimes the same day of disbursement or maybe a day before or two disbursement. So my best recommendation is for you to, once you are approved for the loan and disburse the loans, go back to your lender and ask them to provide you with the note, the loan note. That loan note will tell you the date of the beginning of the cover period along with your SBA number, which I've been finding that now those are needed, number one, for forgiveness, but number two, to apply for that second draw with a different lender, you're gonna need your first SBA, PPP loan number. So important to know that that information is key or important. So go back to your lender and ask them for the note, the SBA loan note or the note with them, because that will state the beginning of your cover period. I've also seen that the banks are automatically posting what that due date is, or that cover period is, depending if it's an 8-week period or a 24-week period. So it is said to be from the date of disbursement. But again, I also have found that it's based on that really SBA note. So I would highly encourage you to try to get a hold of that note and go based on that date.
Great, very important to note, no pun intended. So next question, once your PPP deposits, can you pay that day for the previous week?
So the PPP can be used for expenses incurred or paid from the date of your covered period. So you can pay for the week before because the paid date is going to be after the disbursement date. So yes, you can count that. It's really based on the paid date because it can be either incurred or paid in that period. So if your pay date falls after the cover period, or from the cover period forward, then yes, you can pay with those funds.
Great. So final two questions. So this one asks, can you amend your California relief to add your 2020 1099 form, as in we just got them after the application deadline the first time?
Can you amend your California relief?
I will see if Linda could add some.
Yeah, can she add a little bit more information? I don't think I understand what she's really.
Yeah, Linda, if you're out there, please type some clarification into the Q&A. We'll come back to you. So this next question, and it's prefaced by being a little complex.
Okay.
So bear with me. Our restaurant stayed just above a 25% loss quarter over quarter only because we participated in the California Great Plates program, which is the state grant funded program for nonprofits to feed the homebound and the elderly. If this program were to end and that grant dried up, we would definitely be eligible. We have only stayed afloat because of California Great Plates, but that revenue seems to hurt our eligibility for the PPP. Do you think
Sorry, go ahead.
The final point, do you think there is a way to demonstrate this detail in the application, and would it matter?
All right, so if I'm understanding correctly, you participated in a program which kind of replaced some of the earnings for your business, right? That sounds like that's what happened. So in that case, yes, you wouldn't qualify because you did have a way to kind of make up that money. So unfortunately, there is no way, unless that was actually not income from from revenue. It was not revenue. If it was a grant, that's obviously a bit different because you have to, it's based on your revenue or on your sales. So if the, the California Great Plates program, if that was a grant not related to, you providing services or you providing, sales, then that's a bit different, So it making sure that you understand if it's that is what kind of replaced or made up for the sales you sold, you lost, then no, you wouldn't, unfortunately, you wouldn't qualify because it is, again, it is part of your sales, no matter, where it came from. Your sales are your sales, especially if you provided a service or you provided a product. So that's mainly what that is, unfortunately. But, glad to hear that there was some type of income that came, and you were not completely left out.
Yeah, and this is a great place for me to also make a plug to go ahead and call EDC. The phone number is in the chat. Make a no-cost appointment, and complex question like this, we can definitely find someone to help you out further. So next question asks, is there a deadline to use the funds from the California Relief Grant? What SBA locate? Oh, yes, here's the question. Is there a deadline to use the funds from the California Relief Grant?
There's no deadline. The most important is that you can use the funds to continue operating your business. That's really the goal of these funds. So there's no due date for you to use them. What you do need to be able to provide in the event that you are selected for a review is how you use those funds. So there's no deadline to use it, and you don't have to pay it back. It's a grant. It's free money pretty much. However, if you're selected for a review, then you would be required to show proof or provide documentation on how you use those funds.
Great, thank you. And then Linda added some more context to her question to ask, can you amend your California relief that is waitlisted with documentation such as your 2020 1099 that came in at the end of January after you applied for the relief program?
So for the relief program, for the California relief program, you could use your 2018 or 2019 taxes, not your 2020. So if your 1099, came for 2020, you don't need 2020 numbers to apply for the California relief grant. You can do it with your 18 and 19 taxes. So you wouldn't be able to amend it, especially if you've already, applied. I would also say if you're waitlisted, then are selected, when you go through that verification process, that's when you can, pose that question if it's going to change the information in any way. Your 1099 shows how much less you made. Well, you were actually, given during the application process for the California Relief Grant, you were asked for, for you to compare your quarters. So that's the information you were already, given. And, you don't need to provide anything else other than, you're certifying. This is why that certification is so important, because you're certifying the information you're providing, it's true and correct. So you don't need to provide anything else other than your tax return to be able to demonstrate that you're an active business and you're filing taxes.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
This next question, can we use our 2020 tax return line 7 gross number, if it is more favorable than 2010 tax return if this used for, Janine, thank you for the question. Would you mind rephrasing your question to add a little bit more context? Because can we use 2020 tax return line 7 gross number if it is more favorable than the 2010?
I would probably assume that she's saying 2019.
Yeah, I would think so too. Tax return if this is used for Schedule C for the first PPP loan.
Yes, so you can use 2020 or 2019 numbers. So if it is more favorable, yes, you can, definitely. You just need to be able to, show documentation for that. So yes.
Great, thank you. I believe this is our last question, and it asks, I will be applying in the 5th round of the California Relief Grant. If I happen to get this grant, in parentheses, either on round 5 or round 6, will this be something that I will be putting onto my PUA claim form and the money that I made?
So keep in mind that the California grant, you're applying it as a business. So if you use those funds to pay yourself, then yes, you would need to report how much you paid yourself from your business. not from the California grant, but just from your business, right? Because when you either, and this is true for any funds that you receive, either as a loan or as a grant, when you are reporting how much you're making, it's how much you're paying yourself when you're paying certifying for PUA, purposes. So if that California grant came in, was deposited into your business account, and out of that you paid for business expenses and some of it to yourself, then you would only report what you paid yourself from that money, or just from your business, not necessarily the full amount. Just be clear. And this is where it's very important that you either have, talk to your bookkeeper, CPA, tax accountant, to understand how that, how that really plays a role. Because if if you're a sole proprietor and you're only working for yourself and you have no business expenses and that money is all coming to you, then yes, by all means, the money that you made for your business needs to be reported, because that's what you got paid yourself. However, if you received the money, but from there you have to pay different, various expenses, and then the leftover is what you pay yourself or what you keep for yourself, then that's a big difference, right? That could be a big difference right there. So make sure that you understand how you're doing your accounting and how, what's for business, what's for personal, so that you can, not sabotage yourself in any way. So definitely, this is something that we can help you with at EDC.
Great. So I think that was the last of our questions. So Juliana, thank you as always. Thank you to everyone still on for your time today. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and we'll send it out in the next few days. You can also visit the EDC website for more information. We'll also drop the phone number to make a no-cost appointment in the chat. This continues to be an incredibly challenging time for businesses, and EDC offers free business consulting that is underwritten by your tax dollars. So please reach out. We're here to help you. It's an incredibly difficult time and you don't have to do this alone. So with that,
Yes.
Thank you again, Juliana, and thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you again. Please remember, you're not alone, and we are here to do the best we can to assist you. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks everyone.
All right.